Alright, so this may be the last video that I do for the Warhorse run, just because I'm about finished. I'm starting to put them out individually. I just got a gang load of belts in to finish cutting the locks. Right now what I'm doing is turning down these screws. They're just 440 button head screws, about 1.25 inches long or so. I like button head screws because I like the rounded top. But with the frame clearance that I have, it's really hard to put that size bolt head in here because I clearance hole 187, so 3/16 counter bore. So what I do is I put the screw in my drill, run it on the belt sander. Fairly simple. And then it turns down and looks like this. So here's a comparison. I really need to get a better camera. Got no zoom on this thing, but you get the idea. I just turn them down about 20 thousandths. So then when they go in, they fit. So I just bring one of these over, pull a screw out of it just for a kind of a test jig, a go, no go kind of thing. So I'm just working my way through all these. It'll take me about 20-30 minutes. I got several hundred of these a while back, so I've been trying to go through them. That's why I haven't gone to just a standard socket head cap screw kind of thing, like these guys. Oops. So normally I would just use these, but I got a whole gang load of those button head ones, so I just turn them down. It takes a little extra time, but it's better than scrapping them or not having any use for them. So I'm doing that. And I'll work this video. I'll try to make this video like a 10-minute long video or something like that, maybe 15. I'll go through what I have to finish on all of them, and then I'll go through what I'm doing individually on them. So everything from sandblast, stonewash to orange peel anodizing, and finish fitting the blades and cutting the locks and stuff like that. So give me a minute. Okay, so here's the inside of a mini. Looks pretty much the same as a large, except for the length, obviously. So what I'm doing now, I've got all the screws turned down to size, so good there. 128 of those little buggers I had to grind down. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to lengthen the stop pin track, and that's basically to align the top, which in the fully open position, see if I can get this thing to actually focus, because this camera sucks. Okay, well, it's probably not going to focus, but the basic premise is I need to cut this back this way a little ways further so that the blade moves up just a touch, and it'll straighten out and it'll give it full contact the entire length of the thickness of the blade. So the stop pin is touching the whole blade, not just a portion. Because from Waterjet, all these cuts are slightly angled, about 6 degrees or so sometimes. So you just adjust that, and that takes care of that. In the closed position, I need to make it closed so that the tip drops down just a little further, so the fuller is fairly lined up with the handle, and it will give me my detent pressure, which is set by the hole in the blade into the hole in the frame here. So when I increase the size of this slot that way, the stop pin will drop further into that, or the detent will drop further into the hole in the blade. So I'll pop the detent in here, and I'll start using the trusty Dremel to cut these out just a little bit further. There's not much, maybe 10 thousandths in the closed position, maybe 5 thousandths in the open position. So it's not a whole lot, so I usually just use the Dremel instead of setting up the mill for it. So I'm going to do that, and I will show you when I'm finished. Just a second. Okay, so I wanted to make a quick amendment to this. When I adjust this blade into the open position by elongating the stop pin track so that it lines up with the jimping on the top, which it's slightly off right now. Also, one thing that I'm doing is, and I just dropped my little pointer. So to get proper lock geometry, you really want your triangle. I've recently changed my stop pin setup so it's a little easier to deal with this. Not that this doesn't work, it's just it's a little easier to deal with it because I relocated my stop pin to up here, so it gives me a better triangle to work with. One thing I do to make sure that you don't develop lock rock and to account for wear is when the stop pin here contacts just the uppermost portion in the open position of the stop pin track, so it only touches up here. I leave about a 5 to 10 thousandths gap at the bottom, right about to the center line of the pivot, or excuse me, of the stop pin. So from here, from this point to here, the stop pin is not touching the track. It is only touching this portion up here. Now, combined with the lock only touching the first 50 to 100 thousandths of the tang of the blade, the stop pin touching the uppermost portion here in a tight fitting pivot gives you what I guess, for lack of a better term, camming action, which the lock will press up against the tang of the blade, push the blade up basically, and if you develop any wear in your pivot, what will happen is if you have it properly set up, it will cam or almost teeter-totter and take up that slack when it locks. So you won't notice wear as quickly as you would if you didn't have that set up. It took me a long time to figure this out, and I had a couple of knives come back with a little bit of up and down movement. It wasn't lock rock, it was the fact that I didn't have enough camming action going on, and with pivot wear, you'd be able to feel the blade move up and down if you pulled on it real hard. So I can fix that now, and all the new ones, everything goes out from now on with this setup to where it's not touching quite on the bottom, just on the top. And then I've also, more recently on my newer designs, moved the stop pin forward, and it still touches the innermost portion, but it's got a larger triangle, and it allows for a little more wear before you notice it. So just thought I'd point that out. I don't know if that makes any difference to y'all or not, but just know that I'm constantly striving to make a perfect knife. I doubt I'll ever get there, but at least I can make them better as I go. So there you go. Okay, so this one I just got finished setting the open and close position, so you can see the difference open and closed hopefully. I don't know if you can or not. Let me set them up like this maybe. You can't really tell. Not on the camera at least. You can when you look at them in person. I dropped the blade down at the tip, probably dropped down, I don't know, 50 thousandths. You can just see down here, it's where I indicate from. And I set my detent pressure, set it to where it falls into the hole pretty well, especially for a flipper. I want them fairly stiff for flippers so they fly out of there. Then I set the open position. Can't really tell the difference on that one either, but this one's good. It'll go in the tote, and I'll start working on this one. So I'll come back when I do the next operation. Okay, so what I just got done doing is cleaning up the tip here. When I mill in these fullers on either side, I just round the tip over there so that it doesn't poke you or cut your pocket open or anything. And then take a Dremel with a carbide bit here, and very carefully, very carefully, cut this edge, break this edge over on both sides of the fuller so it doesn't cut you, because I can't tell you how many times I've cut myself on a 90-degree angle. I cut myself more on 90-degree angles than I cut myself on anything else, even sharp knives. So I always try to chamfer the edges of everything. So got that done, got all the screws cut and fit and installed, detents are installed, they are all good to go open and closed, detent pressure is perfect. So now what I'm going to do is clean up the jimping knock off this heat treat scale so that it acid etches properly, and start cutting locks. After that, it's all individual stuff, and they'll get done pretty quick. So, see you in a minute. Alright, so got this Mini put together. Still got to do the finish on it, but got the lock cut. I just figured I'd show you guys since you like to stay on top of that stuff. I believe, honestly, I couldn't tell you for sure what finish this was getting. I haven't looked at my sheet, but I got 6 or 7 more of these that got to be done. I think this one will probably end up being orange peel, you know. So, got the detent set. Flies out real nice, real smooth. So yeah, in the future there's probably a couple little things that I'm going to change in the CAD files before we get them cut, so I've got a little more room to work. I'll probably thicken up this part. Not terribly worried about it, but it'd be nice to have it a little beefier. You guys know me, I like beefy. A couple small changes. I was thinking I might move the screws in just a touch, or maybe extend the outside of the frame just a tiny bit, maybe 20-30 thousandths. It'll give a little bit more room here. And one thing I wanted to do too is extend the front of the frame out about 80 thousandths. So I doubt you might be able to see it, but you can see the detent track right here. I usually don't, it doesn't make any difference other than aesthetics. I just don't usually like to see the detent track, and I miss that. So when I acid wash this, I cover that, and then it's silver, so then I take acid back over the top of it real lightly. Not as dark as the blade, but just a little lighter, and then work it back open. So you'll see a shiny track with a little lighter colored acid wash on there. That's just so that it doesn't feel gritty when you open and close it, because you want as smooth as possible on the surface for the detent to ride on. But other than that, these things turn out great. I like these. I got a good mind to keep one, but they're all sold. So right now I'm just getting this one ready for finishing. It's about done. I just broke all the edges so they don't cut your fingers. Oh, let's see. Lock's all good to go. Carbonized it. Flies out real nice. Nice and centered. So this one will go in the tote, and I will start working on the next one. See if I can get through a couple more of these tonight, and then maybe tomorrow I'll just finish them all or something. I'll get 5 done in a day, 6 done in a day. That'd be kind of cool. Alright guys, be back in a bit. You know, some days I think I work in the shop by myself too much, because I really enjoy dual wielding